Hi, I'm Cassidy and welcome to Lifestyle. Today I'm sharing with you a quick and easy recipe for Ratatouille. I don't know if you've seen the movie, but it's definitely one of my favorite movies, an adorable Disney picture. I think it's Disney. Anyways, but it's absolutely a great dish, full of vegetables. You can add meat, protein if you'd like, or some pasta for a little bit more sustenance, but what I'm going to be showing you today is a very basic, straightforward Ratatouille recipe. Now, before I get started, I just want to let you know that I'm actually tripling this recipe for a dinner party that I have tonight that I'm catering. But underneath this blog, or this video blog, is the appropriate measurements posted for you. The servings would be enough for about 4. So, to get started, first I am going to turn on the stove. I want this at like a medium-high heat. Adding some olive oil. Enough to coat the onions. Adding my onions. And a little bit of garlic to saute with the onions. Now, this bottled minced garlic is one of my always ultimate time savers for multiple reasons. It's really hard to keep garlic fresh for when you when you need it, especially if you're going to be cooking on a whim. And garlic really does add a lot of flavor. Really, a little bit goes a long way. And if I was to be mincing a clove, I probably don't even want a whole clove. Again, it's just a little bit of subtle flavor. So whenever a recipe calls for minced garlic, I go for the bottle because it keeps my hands from smelling like garlic and it takes me 1 second instead of a couple minutes. So any way to make your life a little bit easier. Again, tripling the recipe, so don't judge what I just said. Use the onion to get all the garlic off the spoon. Mix it all together. And now I'm just going to let it soften a bit. It might look like a lot of onions, but this is actually going to cook down pretty nicely, and it's just going to end up adding a little touch to the ratatouille. It definitely will not be overpowering. Now that that's all mixed, I'm going to let it set for a second until, like I said, it's softened, and then we will add a little more olive oil and the eggplant. Be right back. So you might be able to tell, if you look closely enough, that this is starting to get a little bit softened. You can tell that the olive oil is coating it nicely. So now I'm going to add a little bit more olive oil. Don't be discouraged, I'm making, again, a huge batch. And it's still over moderately high heat so that it gets really hot just before I add the eggplant. Okay, now that we're getting a nice little sizzle here, I know that it's hot enough for me to add the eggplant. So, I've already cut it into 1-inch cubes. This was about 3 eggplants. For the recipe, to get the 3/4 cup that you need for the recipe, you only need about 1. Tell you this is delicious. So we're going to let it cook, mixing it, often, not frequently, for about 8 minutes. You'll be able to tell when it starts to get a little bit more cooked under. I'll show you. So here you can see that they're nice and softened. You remember when they were nice and crisp when they were fresh. Now they're cooked down a little bit. It's been about 8 minutes. So I'm going to add some zucchini. I love. This recipe is chock full of vegetables that I love. And bell pepper. So about 1 of each. Again, like I said before, I'm tripling the recipe, that's why you see so much. Mix it in, and we're going to let it cook a little bit more. So if you haven't noticed, this recipe, requires a little bit of prep time as far as chopping, but, never hurts to have a sous chef, whether it's a roommate, a husband, or an older child, teenager, with the knife skills. Might as well put them to work, and then really it's just about putting each ingredient in at the right time and letting them kind of all meld together to become just one pot of delicious vegetables. So we'll let that sit. See, the vegetables are definitely tender. They're even starting to create a nice little broth. And it's been about 12 minutes. Now I'm going to add the tomatoes. It should be about a cup, but this recipe, again, I am tripling it. So this will create a nice little saucy texture that you're used to with your ratatouille. Mix it all in, and again, let it rest or cook for about 7 minutes. Alright, so now you can see that the tomatoes have really cooked, and again, the broth just keeps getting better and better thanks to these tomatoes. So it's time to season the ratatouille. A little bit of oregano. The recipe calls for a quarter. Again, I'm tripling it. A quarter of a teaspoon. Again, I'm tripling it. Of course, it would be better to measure it, but I'm used to working with these spices and these amounts. I just wanted to grind it up a little bit to release a little bit more of the flavor. Same amount of time, about a quarter of a teaspoon per serving, or per recipe. It just gets nice and aromatic this way. And these are also some of the same herbs as in your favorite pasta sauce. So maybe this is why it feels like yummy at-home cooking. And just a little bit of ground coriander. Some recipes call for fennel seeds or fennel bulbs, but I personally don't like those at all. So I choose to omit it. So I'll stir this in the coriander. So I've added 1/8 of a teaspoon of coriander. I'm sorry you all, but my filmographer, videographer, whatever, is crying over the onions that I chopped for another recipe, and I feel really bad. I shouldn't be laughing, but I know I feel her pain. So anyways, that's what's going on. To keep it real. And then a little bit of pepper, not too much. It's not really about the pepper. But definitely you do not need to be shy about the salt. So again, I'm doing this for 3 portions of the recipe. Oh, but salt makes things so good. Ooh, that salt got a little excited. Let the seasonings all sit together for a minute, and then I'm going to add some basil. See how delicious this is. Might need more salt. A little bit more salt, but that is good. With it being summer right now, this is a perfect summer dish, since you can get most of these ingredients at the farmer's market. Now, stir in some basil that I've chopped. Look at the colors. So, now you know how to make a quick and easy ratatouille. Bon appetit!